HTML. Let me show it to you in practice, although you have seen it, and that's what you do every day. So maybe I'm sure you have come to this website at a certain stage. So what you do is you go and type the URL. So you will do something like this, qu.edu.qa. So what the browser is doing, it takes this address. So this address is what, maybe I'll let somebody explain what's going on. When I type an address and hit enter, what happens?
You call to
yes, please.
Yeah.
Sorry, you do what?
Request to protocol to the DNS.
No,
HTTP.
HTTP. Very good. No, a little bit more explanation. I want to know the steps. What happens when I type this address? This is, by the way, this is an address.
Translate this address to IP address.
Okay, thank you very much. This is the first step. So those of you maybe didn't take network. Anybody did not take networking yet? You don't need it, by the way. It's just you don't need it. This is just common knowledge for you, just to get the big picture. Okay. So let me explain it. It's a bit outside the scope. It's just for you to connect and to get the big picture. So we have something called the web. This big thing called the web. Okay. And this web is basically a bunch of servers. Lots of servers. Millions of servers. Every organization has some machine, some maybe much more powerful than this laptop. You can go to ITS and say, please show me your servers. Big racks with some hardware there. Okay? So these machines are connected to the internet thanks to Ooredoo and other service providers. And each of these servers, they have an address, similar to your home address. Everybody like in your place, you have an address. These days, you even have a number for that address. The number, the building number, the street number, the area, and so on. So same thing. Every server on the web has an address. It's not a building number and the street number and the area. But what this address called? IP address. It's just numbers, bunch of numbers that we call them IP address. So every server has a unique address. Unique, like your address, your home address is unique. If it's not unique, maybe we don't have the post yet, but in many countries, when you send a letter, it goes all the way to the home. They knock the door, give you the letter, put it on the mailbox. So every address is unique. Same thing, every server has a unique address. But this address looks something like this. Let's see. Let me see if I can pick this guy, just to see. Okay, CMD, and then can I do here ping? Not sure if I can do ping. No. Without this? No. Okay, let me show you another one. We have a local server called CSE. Okay, we have another server, by the way, called CSE. And basically, this CSE, this is the IP address of it. Sorry, when is my... Okay, here. Okay. So, this is a server in ITS. If you go to ITS, they can show it to you if you know somebody there. So this is the IP address of that server. It looks like this. It's made up of 4 parts. It doesn't matter. It's a number. Now humans are not very good with remembering numbers, as you all know.
Names.
So we are much better with names, especially if these names have some kind of meaning. So that's why instead of when we advertise, the Qatar University says, oh, by the way, I have a server, you can come and find some information about the university. They don't advertise this IP address, because it's very hard to remember. So they advertise a human-friendly name that people can remember. So, like for example, we all know if you do qu.edu.qa, if you want to go to Al Jazeera, aljazeera.net, CNN.com, whatever. So these are more friendly of names. So when you type that name on the browser, the first step that will happen
is resolving.
Yes, is basically translating that name from the human name to the address. Okay, is clear? Okay. Now, in this server, in these servers, these boxes, these machines, usually you have multiple programs running, and they're all listening for requests to come in. Okay. So, for example, we have at Qatar University, for example, we have mail server to get our emails. We have web server to get our pages and content about the university. We have many other servers. So every server has an address and what is known as a port. So in here, although it's not written, this is really listening on port 80. So if you put 80, the browser will basically laugh at you and say, I already know it, and it removes it. Okay, no need for it. But in some cases, you might open your web server or some application running here on a different address. Okay, so let me just show you what this means. If by the way, this is a little tool that we'll be using. It's called, I ask you to install it, WebStorm. And please, for the instruction I send, please don't ignore it. Do it as we go, because you will get more instructions. I didn't send this one? Okay, I will send it. So do the GitHub one, and I will send this one. Now, let me just show you. This is a simple page. When I open it, you can see here, this is the local host means the local machine. And the address of it is 1.27.0.0.1. Either one will work. Localhost is more friendly name, and the IP of it is 127.0.0.1. Okay, now you see here the port is different than 80. So if it is different than 80, you must mention it. Okay, so let's quickly summarize what's going on. So the web is a set of interconnected servers. Servers, in this case, just the hardware and machines, and there is some software running in there. And these servers, they have unique IP addresses. And these addresses are harder to remember for humans, so we have some friendly names that we can remember. And there is a server on the network called DNS that has a table that says, okay, if somebody asks for qu.edu.qa, it means 10.1.20.30. So it's just a lookup table. So when you type the address on the browser, the first thing that happens, the translation from the friendly name to the IP, and then the communication takes place across the network. Now, if you need to know how that communication takes place and how it works, you need to go for a networking course. But you don't need those details. You only need this basic understanding. Okay? Now, on these servers, you might have multiple software running, each one doing different things. One is providing email functionality. One is providing printing functionality. Another one providing pages. So each one will be listening on different ports. So when you ask the server, please do this for me, you go to the same server, but how do we know which application you want to talk to? Through the port. Is clear? The idea of the port. And by default, the web people, they agreed on port 80. Okay? But you don't need to limit yourself to that if you need to. That's the default one. Is clear? So, when I type this request here, when I type this address and hit enter, the browser generates a request to this web server and says, please give me the page. Also, although I didn't mention here the page, but most likely it will be index.php, I think. Okay, so this is a request. The browser generates a request using HTTP protocol. We will see what this HTTP protocol as we move forward. And it says to this server, listening on port 80 on qu.edu.qa, please give me the page called index.php. There's no magic. The server on its hard disk, it has a file called index.php. Now, this index.php is basically, this is a really program. Remember the server side? There are many, many technologies. One of them, very famous also, called PHP. So this is a program. What the server side does, it will run that program, generate some HTML, and send it to the browser. Okay? And all of this happening text-based. So it's plain text. So you send text, and you get back text. There is no magic. We will see what that text looks like. I don't want to dive deeper into that because I really want you to acquire a little bit of skills and understanding so when you go to the lab, you can really benefit from it. So this kind of bit of theoretical understanding, not theoretical, but this kind of general understanding, we will cover it as we go. So I want to now jump into the HTML, jump to what comes back from the server side. So although you see this nice page, behind it is some scary text that you will understand as we go forward, as we move forward through this course. So here is the page, here is the actual code or the actual text that the ITS people wrote. Okay? So what we see here, we see that there is an HTML page. And this HTML page is made up of two parts. The head, can you see here the head? Yeah. And there is the body. Okay? So if I go back here, the head is not shown to the user. The head, it tells this page, it says, oh, by the way, this is an HTML page, and it can have some characters other than English. Mm-hmm. Okay? And it says, okay, the title is Qatar University, that's why you see here Qatar University. This is the only thing visible to the user from the head, is the title. Here, it says, oh, by the way, this page is using some JavaScript. Remember those three ingredients? The HTML, JavaScript, and CSS. And it's using some CSS, and again, some JavaScript. And it's using some other information, not very useful at this stage. Part of the 80%. Remember the 80, 20, 80? Those are 80, just ignore them at this stage. It just says, oh, by the way, this is something for the web, something about Qatar University, blah, blah, blah. By the way, this is important for when Google sends its crawlers to discover the web, they like this. They go in and say, oh, I found a page, and this is a little summary. You know, when you do the search and you get that nice summary, if your page has this little summary, they grab it and they say thank you. Otherwise, they have to go through the page and try to grab some summary from it. But it's part of the 80, ignore it. What is part of the 20 that you need to know? In the head, there is this title. You can embed or refer to some JavaScript files, and you can refer to some CSS files. We will see what the role of each one. So this is what is in the head. Now, what is in the body? Before I go that deeper, I think I want you to always think about the big picture. Then go into the details. Otherwise, it will become meaningless, and you will lose the main idea. So before I go dive deeper into this is not very good. I should not scare you with this. Let's first go back to here, and just discuss in general the role of each of these three ingredients. So this HTML, what is the role of it? The structure of the page. What do I mean by the structure? Please tell me the structure of this page.
Has a menu,
Okay, very good.
research, search box,
Okay.
drop list, the language, components,
It has some components, yes.
links,
There is a footer here. Thank you very much. So, if I can summarize it in another way, similar to what you said, there is here a header. Can you see here the header? The header has two parts, a logo and a menu. In the menu, there is also a search box. This is very common, how people design web pages. Then, typically, this is not all of them have it, but you might have some key messages that you want to communicate to your visitor. You put them in some nice graphics, and they are scrollable. Automatically, they change every few seconds. Okay? Then you have the body of the page. This is the main content of the page. And it has some sections. Can you see here? Different sections. And on the right side, there are some key messages that the organization wants to communicate to its visitors. And then at the end, we find some footer that provides some contact details and some links to the social media links. Okay? So this is what I mean by the structure of the page. So HTML helps us to divide the page into some logical parts. Each part, typically you have a header, footer, and then you have the body. In the body you might have different sections in the body. And sometimes you might have some key messages on the right side or the left side. That's typically how you structure your page. Now have a look at this. When I put my mouse over this, what happens? You get the menus of that. You get the submenus of that particular menu item. Okay. So who is responsible of this? Is it HTML?
JavaScript.
This is the JavaScript.
Because there's a link and there's action threads.
Yes, thank you. There is some events going on here that the user have moved the mouse over certain elements of the page, and we need to react to that movement. Okay? So there is some event. We don't just stay there and do nothing. We react to it. We do something in reaction to what the user did. So that reaction to the user action is you have to write some code. So if the user, you see, because it's a different behave. See here, when I move over this, it's different behave than when I move over this. Different behave, and so on. So, and different behave. You see here, when I click this, it moves to that image. So these are events that the user triggers, and you as developer, you need to do some action. HTML is not for that. HTML, what is the role of HTML? Define the structure of the page. It's not a programming language. It is called a markup language. You know markup?
The tags.
Tags. Well, but in more like in a common real life, you know, when you read some text, you have some highlights. You say, okay, these are some key ideas. You can highlight them. You can mark them up. And you can say, this is the introduction, this is the body of the article, and this is the conclusion. So that's what HTML is. It's not able to do, you cannot do any programming with it. You cannot react to events using JavaScript. Now, yes please.
The quick menu is also in JavaScript.
The quick menu, this part of HTML you can have a drop down. So, which brings me to another thing. So in HTML, let me be more precise. So HTML, really, as far as developers, us as developers, we use it for two things. One is to define what is called the layout of the page. Basically the structure of the page. The second thing we use HTML for is to create forms. Okay. What are forms? These forms that you have filled, so many of them, to collect input. Okay. You have text box, drop down. So yes, this is part of HTML, but maybe when I click something, JavaScript might do some action. Okay. Now you see this drop down. You see here it's blue. I don't know which color. It's kind of blue with the white text. Now this colors and the fonts and the positioning is the CSS. So you see here, each one has a very clear role to play. This one is structure, and and if you want to collect some input using forms. This one is to do some programming. Reacts to event, change the page, do some animation, do some sorting, all of this functionality on the page. And CSS is to make it look nice, with the right colors, and so on. So each of them is an ocean. You can spend weeks, months to learn them and master them, but that's not the idea of this course. The idea is just to cover the 20% to get us up and running, and if you wish, with the time and with experience and with opportunities that will come along the way, you will learn much more than this. Okay. That's it. This is the introduction. Now let us see the more details. What is this HTML is all about? So now let me go back to the source. So HTML is text. It's plain text. And as you can see, is made up of tags. This is the HTML tag. Although maybe let me do another way. Inspect. This is a much better way. By the way, every browser has this developer view that users are not aware of. It's too scary. So if I do here inspect or Control-Shift-I, you will see this developer view. And we will use this developer view heavily as we move forward. But it's a nice way to really understand what's going on. This is the page. As you can see, it starts with HTML tag and it closes the tag. So HTML is a tag-based language. What is a tag? It's some you open what do we call it? The square brackets. Or anybody knows the name? Anyway, we open these things.
Greater than this.
Yeah, greater than this. I'm sure they have some name. And we basically make sure you close them off. Okay? And then in here there is some name that you put, some string that you put. You don't put it from your own head. It is a standard. People have already agreed on this. Learn it and use it. Otherwise, the browser will not understand what you're talking about. It's a standard. CSS is a standard. JavaScript is a standard. So you have to learn it and use it. Of course, you can do some extensions. That's more advanced. We will see later on. Okay, so the root. So here, you can see there are tags. And within these tags, you can put other tags. So it's a nested. It's like a tree. There is a root, and then when you enter, there are two childs, the head and the body. Can you see it here? There is one child head, and one child is the body. The head, the user does not see it except the title. And usually we use it to give a title to our page, and to refer to CSS and to refer to JavaScript that we will use in the page. Okay? Now the body is what the user will see. And then in the body you will find other tags. Each tag has a role to play. And we will learn these tags as we move. So this is the basic idea of HTML. So now let me go back to here and just go now slowly. Is the big picture clear? Okay, good. All right. So I already explained this. On the client side, you need these three ingredients, and you need the three of them. So you don't say, oh, khalas, I just want HTML, I don't want the other ones. I don't like them. No, you cannot do that. You have to learn all. Not the 100%, but at least the 20%. I already explained this, the role of each one. HTML is to define the structure. CSS is to define the look and feel and how the page looks like. And JavaScript is to do validation, animation, and react to events as the user interacts with the page. Of course, in the HTML, you can refer to images, audios, and so on. We will see how to do that. So the overall structure of an HTML page, every HTML page out there in the world starts with an HTML tag that you open and close. So this is the root. Within that root, you have two childs, the head and the body. The head has some metadata. Metadata means information about the page. The most important is the title. This if you want to describe your page and you want to be friendly with the search engines. Search engines like this information. And of course in here you refer, as I said, we refer to CSS and JavaScript. We will see how to do that. Now the actual page that the user sees is that it is contained within the body tag. So you open body and you close it. And then in here, you say, I have 3 headers. You know when you are writing your long report or paper or to submit to somebody, hopefully you are not just writing everything, just writing without any kind of structure. It will be very, very hard for the recipients of that document to make sense of it. So that's why you emphasize on having some kind of structure. Some headers and subheaders and paragraphs and some spacing. So this is what the structure is. This is what HTML allows you to do. So in here, for example, I am defining one header. So we have different types of headers, from 1, I think, to 7. Header 1 is like big header. Subheader, header 2, sub-subheader, header 3, and so on. So if I want to mark up some text to say this is a header of certain section of the page, all I do, I put it between an H1 or H2 or H3. Okay? Now if I want a paragraph, I put it in a big tag. This I define in here 2 paragraphs. This is the basic idea of what HTML is all about. Okay, now this is a full HTML page. As I mentioned here, I am using some JavaScript. So the best practice is not to mix the two in one file. I put my JavaScript in a separate file, I put my CSS in a separate file, and the HTML refers to both of them. So it says, okay, please go ahead and load this JavaScript file, and go ahead and load this CSS file. So it's a different tags. So to load the script, I use the script tag. And to load style sheet file, I use link and this rel and href style. So it's a bit different syntax because it is used for different purposes. And this is the body. This is what the user will see on the browser. Okay? Very, very important. Before you learn any technology, ask yourself what I can do with it. Before you go how and when and whatever, see what you can do with it. Not necessarily you need to know how to do everything in here, but you must know what are the capabilities, what you can do with it. So what can we do with HTML?
The form and the layout.
Okay, very good. The layout, define the structure and the layout of the page. Create forms. Okay, what else? Display information using tables. So that's very, very important feature. You see in the web a lot of tables. So there is a table tag that allows you to display structured information in tables. You can also embed videos, audio, images. Okay. And there are other more advanced capabilities that we might see later on. These days, you can store information on the browser. You can even have a little database on the browser. So we will not, I will just show you, we will see this much more later on. You can see here you can have a local storage where you can store information on the browser. You can even have a little database, SQL database, and you can write SQL and store information on the browser. This is very, very important development, and this is more for mobile applications. So for mobile, sometimes, as I explained last time, you want to support the model of occasionally connected. Not everybody is rich enough to have 4G all the time. You want to be able to work offline, and when you get the free Wi-Fi, you connect and then you synchronize. So that's why having this ability to store information on the client is very, very important to support the scenario of occasionally connected. Okay? Maybe some of you are always connected, but that's not the case. Not me. That's not the case for everyone. So that's why we have these offline storage capabilities. Okay? The other thing you can do, here is just at least you are aware that HTML can do this for you. You don't need to know how to do it at this stage, you will learn it later on. You can also draw graphics and do very advanced graphics and gaming on the browser using HTML. But that's much more advanced. We will not see it in this course. But just be aware of this. What we will definitely see, and what you as a web developer you need to be familiar with, you should be able to define the structure of the page using HTML. You should be able to define forms. Very critical for a web developer to know how to use forms. When you get information from a server, from a database, typically it is very structured information. You want to display it in tables. You need to know how to use tables. Sometimes you have some images and some videos to show. You need to know how to do them. And these things can come later. It's clear what's the capabilities. And now for each capability, you start and see how I do it. So always, in terms of learning, I find this approach very, very useful. Okay, so this is the page layout. The first capability that you can use HTML for. Now, the page layout, there are people, they call themselves web designers. They are scared of coding. They don't like to see JavaScript. If they see a Java program, they will not sleep the night. So scared to do any coding. But they are very, very good in making the page look very, very nice and professional. So we don't want to go that path. That's another stream. Just be aware of it, that some people, that's what they do for their living, is to design pages. We want to do the minimal design. Something that somebody can use comfortably. Not something that they will say, wow, this is extraordinary. That's not what the purpose of this course is. Clear? But typically, in, let's say, 80% of the pages, you will see this kind of layout. You will see some header that has some logo, maybe some search box, something like this, in most of the pages. Then you will see a navigation, some kind of menus that you can navigate to different areas of the page. Then you will see some footer, say contact us, and this is on Facebook, Twitter, and all that stuff. And then you have, this is the body of the page. This is where the core of the page is. Typically they reserve this to people who are paying them to do a little bit of advertising, or maybe to put some key messages that they want to communicate to visitors. And then you have the body, which has some articles and some sections that has some content. So this is the typical layout. So for us, in most of our course, most of our applications that we will build, most likely we will have a little header, some navigation, and the body. We will not have even the footer. Just to let you know. Then you are the web citizen. You have seen so many designs, so many pages. You inspire your design from what you see. So, okay. So here are the tags that you need to use for each of those parts of the page. So the header you put it in a tag called header. The navigation, you put it in a tag called navigation. Nav. The sections of your page, you put them in tag called section. The aside is mainly, as I said, for advertising or for key messages. You put them in this aside. And usually an article is made up of multiple sections. So you might have, that's similar to this. You have an article that's made up of many sections. And then you have a footer. Again, no HTML police will chase you if you don't follow this. You can just use paragraphs and headers without this, it's fine. It's up to you. We will see. But this is kind of HTML5 is trying to push us this way. Each section, if you look at it, you know the role of it, just from the tag. When I see something inside footer, I immediately know this is footer. Yes. Now, when I put something in footer, it doesn't mean it will go down here. If I put something in nav or in a side, it doesn't mean it will come here on the right side. Who controls the positions? CSS. Thank you very much. Very, very important to remember. So the positioning is not controlled by the tags. The positioning is controlled by CSS, and we will see how to do that later on. So the HTML defines, have a look at this. The HTML defines the logical structure. From the meaning point of view, if I can say it, ما محل الإعراب of each of the parts. What is the role? But not the physical structure. Who defines the physical structure? CSS. Thank you. This is very important to remember. Okay, I already explained the role of each of these tags, and I will show you quickly an example. Now, before I show you an example, let me just go through this very, very important distinction. So sometimes you will find some tags, and you will say, oh, which one should I use? For example, we have something called P to define a paragraph, and something called div.
Division.
Okay, when do I use which one? So both of them, if you use either one, the way it looks on the page is exactly the same. But you, as a web developer or designer, what is the most appropriate one to use in which scenario?
We need to know the functionality of each, and this side, like it says, the container of data has to be there, and then the paragraph itself with the tag B maybe. Okay,
very good. So, if you are talking about a paragraph, the way we understand paragraphs in plain English, you know what's a paragraph? It's some content that has some meaning on its own, and it's some text, basically. So in that case, if you are talking about paragraph, then use paragraph. But if you are talking about, let's say you have a complex form, and you want to control one part of it, it's not really a paragraph, it's just some chunk in the page or some part of the page. You use div in that case. Anyway, it will become clear later on. But the key message here, you choose between the tags based on the meaning, based on what is the role of this text I have in the page. Is it a normal paragraph as we know it in plain English? Use P. If it is just to group some elements together as one unit, you use a div. Don't worry if you don't understand it at this stage. We will see further examples. So let me show you a concrete example of layouts. So this is first part, layouts. So you need to know how to use HTML to define the layout of the page. So in this course, everything you learn, you will see an example, and then you go and practice. That's how you will learn. There's no other way. You have to learn the concept, see examples, and do it yourself. Otherwise, you cannot become a web developer. Simple as that. All right, so let us see layout. Here is layout. So let me, first of all, when you see this page, first, using this, what is this called? The WebStorm, you just click any of the browsers that you like. Of course, for me is Chrome. If you click it, it will show you the page, how the page looks like. So this shows you the basic tags of HTML, the basic tags. So if I look here, by the way, you can also use the web browser to really learn. When you are going through the pages, from now on, if you see something you want to learn how you can do it in HTML, all you do, click on it and do inspect. Okay, and it will show you exactly how that is done.
So this is the structure of the page?
Um,
The one border, margin, padding?
where is it? No, this is CSS. We will see later on. CSS. The structure of the page is that I have a div. It's not a paragraph. It's just some part of the page, and inside it I have an image. This is how I display an image on HTML page. I use the image tag. Sorry, for this. I forgot this guy. Switch it off. Okay, it's almost there. So for an image, I use the image tag and the source attributes, and I provide the URL from where this image is coming. And in case the image is not there,
Locally, it's
I can display text instead of it. So, or if remember here, if I hover over this, if I put my cursor, no, it doesn't show in this case. Sorry. Okay. So I think I will let you go, but basically, what I want you to say is the way you study this content that I provide, it's nicely organized. So let me show you. These are the key capabilities that you can do with HTML. So you learn one by one. And you go here, try to understand the concept, and then go and see some play with some examples. See some existing examples, and then in the lab you have some activities to do these things yourself. Okay, thank you very much, and I will see you